my big question, who the hell is going to be driving the Alpine opposite of Pierre Gasly in 2026? It's a very underwhelming season for the French back team, currently in last place by a wide margin in the Constructors' Championship. There's a lot of questions about Alpine's future as we move forward into 2026, but most notably, and the highlight of this video, of this segment, who the hell is driving the second Alpine in 2026? Pierre Gasly signed the contract extension. It's going to time to Alpine through 2028. He's going to be the face of this team for the foreseeable future. But things have been really rocky on the other side of the garage since he joined in 2023. He was alongside Esteban Ocon in 2024. 2025, Ocon leaves, of course, goes to Haas. This year, he's seen Jack Doohan get benched pretty quickly and then paired with Franco Colapinto ever since Imola. And there's a fair amount of uncertainty for 2026 and beyond. So here's my quick three on who I think is going to be driving the pink and blue Alpine starting in 2026. We got to start with the incumbent. We got to start with Franco Colapinto, because Colapinto's case for driver 2 next year has been kind of coming together of late. I've given him a lot of crap in the other segment. I understand that. But finishing ahead of Gasly 3 out of the last 6 weekends, so a 50% hit rate if you just count these last 6. And whether there were some team orders or not, the results are still the results. It would go to show that Colapinto has begun to settle in with Alpine since the midseason switch. It would go to show that he does have some comfortability when the setup's right, when things are moving his direction, he can deliver. Unfortunately, not into the points, but as far as results are concerned, he's starting to hit some of these benchmarks that I think they had for him. And Colapinto does have some strong points finishes on his resume. After he took over last year midseason for another driver in Logan Sargent, from Williams, he tallied 5 points in Azerbaijan and the United States Grand Prix weekend, with some near points finishes as well. However, he does also own 3 DNFs out of the final 4 race weekends when he was driving the Blue Williams last year. And he's had his moments, of course, this season as well. His counterpart to start the year, Jack Doohan, had a major moment in Japan. So Alpine have had their fair share of notches in the F1 Constructors' Championship this year. Franco Colapinto is still a part of that. And unfortunately, not having points in a year that's been so full of parity, with a number of Grand Prix Sundays that Colapinto has been a part of and Sprint Saturdays, it is kind of surprising at this stage of the year to have him not have a single point. All 20 points so far for Alpine have been scored by the one and only Pierre Gasly. And look, I get it. This thing's a freaking tractor. The Alpine this year is pretty to look at, but it is not something that the F1 broadcast, it's not something that F1 TV or Sky Sports have spent a lot of time watching this year, if it's not being lapped by the front runners in orange or in blue or in silver or in, red. It's been a rough year for Alpine. And Alpine fans, if you're out there, let me know down in the comments below. We love having you here, but it's been rough. As far as what they're going to do in 2026, you have to hope that they're going to get somebody who can at least be a little bit more stable. My alternative to this at the moment, though, one of the other drivers, that I think that Alpine should consider is somebody that's in their network right now. An F2 option that, people who watched Formula 2 over the last couple of years might have been familiar with, maybe even going back to F3, Estonian driver Paul Aron. Aron was a rapid contender in Formula 2 in 2024 with High Tech GP, finished his season in 3rd place in F3 the year prior as well, finished in F2, in 3rd place as well. So back-to-back P3s to finish seasons. He's a former Mercedes junior, tallied 3rd place behind Gabriel Bortoleto, mind you, and Isaac Hadjar, 2 guys who were promoted to F1 in a year that was incredibly competitive with finishes along the way. But he was driving alongside Gabriel Bortoleto, again, Isaac Hadjar, Franco Colapinto, who is currently in F1, like I had mentioned extensively, Kimi Antonelli, and Ali Behrman. That 2024 F2 championship was very interesting to watch. I watched most of it, Paul Aron was fighting at or near the front pretty regularly. And he's performed well in tests for Alpine, as well as a test with the Stake F1 group at the British Grand Prix. But Paul Aron was driving the Alpine as recently as Mexico City this past weekend. And watching him at F2, seeing bits of what he's done in F3, I think Aron is worth a shot. I think if they were to make this decision, a lot of people would be like, who? But if you've watched this kid, he's got some pace, man. He's got some pace. And he like any young driver, he's going to have his share of mistakes. He's going to have DNFs. He's going to have crashes. He's going to have procedural issues. He's going to have moments. But if you're doubting what Franco Colapinto is giving you, if you're looking for a young upstart to really invest in, to give an opportunity to, as Alpine have been willing to do, because again, prior to Franco Colapinto having Jack Doohan in the car for a number of Grand Prix, finished last year in Abu Dhabi, and then had, I think, 5 to 6 races this year before they made the switch. They've been willing to give young guys chances. If they're going to do it again, which, whoever the decision maker is going to be at this stage, because Alpine have had quite a bit of turnover, but whatever they decide, I think that Paul Aron, he deserves that shot. There's something about him. Just watching him at High Tech GP last year, he was able to do some things that, at least in my opinion, were pretty impressive. I think he had a really solid win in Qatar, if I'm not mistaken. It was a really tough championship, of course, towards the end, a little bit anticlimactic with stalling out of Isaac Hadjar in Abu Dhabi. Gabriel Bortoleto, bringing it home to win that championship. But it was a really special rookie class. A lot of guys, of course, 5 rookies this year. I think Aron in 2026 being one of those potential rookies, I would be okay with it. He's solid. Check him out. Of course, young drivers have mistakes. They have their moments, but the kid, I don't know, man. There's something about him. I think he's got raw pace. Seeing what he's able to do in the car, in my opportunities to watch what he's done, I've been pretty impressed. Finally, one more driver to highlight. I mentioned it before, so if you're a veteran of the TLPs, if you're a TLP, you're an avid listener, avid watcher, we appreciate you. But more recently, I've been bringing up this as an option when it comes to Alpine in 2026. It's Yuki Tsunoda. More formally, I'm bringing it to the table one more time. Yuki Tsunoda. He's another Red Bull alumni, so to speak, currently driving the Red Bull opposite of Max Verstappen. So he would join that pipeline, alongside Pierre Gasly, alongside guys like Alex Albon, Checo Perez coming back onto the grid next year. He would be another one of the former Red Bull drivers to have made a jump to go elsewhere. Maybe grass is greener elsewhere when you're not driving under Christian Horner. Lauren Mecky's doing good things, but, he's not going to be a world beater. But he's a veteran driver that I think for Alpine is a very safe option for the team going into another regulation. 2026 is going to be a huge overhaul. They're going to have a lot of changes. They're in that Mercedes power unit in the car, of course, because Renault decided they were going to stop building their own power units beginning in 2026. A lot of changes are coming in Alpine, probably top down. Questions about Flavio Briatore as the team leader, team boss, team principal, etc. Who is going to be leading this team into the future? What does Alpine look like going into the future? Do they decide to keep this team going? Renault, the parent company. But Yuki Tsunoda, if you can answer one question, is that he's incredibly liked by the fan base. He's a solid driver, generally speaking, especially for what Alpine might be looking for. Incredibly marketable, well-loved, well-liked within the paddock, and he has great chemistry inter-team with your face, Pierre Gasly. And look, while this move might be a little bit shocking at first, surface level, first impressions from, average Formula One fans might be a little bit maybe surprised by the move, by the signing. Look, again, I think it's a super safe decision. It's not going to be expecting too much out of 2026. It's getting your feet wet with the new regulation. Try to keep building your infrastructure. Have a couple of guys in the seats that are really going to be at least very stable for the year. And if he underperforms, you're back to where you were before. And then maybe you consider a Paul Aron. Maybe you reconsider a Franco Colapinto at that stage. Maybe you have somebody else coming through the pipeline. But I think Tsunoda in the right machinery can land you some points. I think he's a safe pick. He's not going to crash the car 10 times a season, a little dramatic, but he's a really safe pick. He brings a lot of great personality. I think for Yuki Tsunoda, this is his opportunity to stay in Formula One, because I just don't feel like Red Bull is going to be jumping at him to stick around. There have been a little bit of conversations about that, leaking here and there about their considerations to keep Yuki. And while I think that it would be interesting, and I think it might make things very curious, Isaac Hadjar has just performed so well, especially with a new regulation. I've talked about this at length, that with questions about Max Verstappen's future, maybe you bring in Isaac Hadjar with this new regulation, with this new base level car, and start building the team a little bit more towards, your young French driver. Just saying, it's possible if you're Red Bull. But this is the Alpine section. I want to know what you guys think is going to happen with this Alpine second seat next year. Is it going to be Franco Colapinto? Is it going to be Paul Aron? Is it going to be Yuki Tsunoda? Do you guys think it could be somebody else that we're not talking about, that isn't a part of any of these conversations? Maybe you're a little more learned on this topic. Maybe you have some more insights. Maybe you're an insider. Maybe you are with Alpine and you know something I don't know. And if you do, DM me. I got my social medias down at the bottom of the screen below, along with my colleague, co-host, Khaki Kevin Walker. The TikTok, the Instagram, all that stuff is right down below. So feel free to give us a follow on any of those channels if you haven't already, TLPs.